It's clear to me that the Conservatives have replaced the triple lock with a triple whammy for pensioners, if I'm quite honest. The winter fuel allowance, the issue around pension cuts, and now this issue, what we're dubbing the dementia tax. And I'm pretty cross about this. I'm cross about it because before, what led me into Parliament was being a home help and looking after people in their own homes. And they were told, do the right thing all your life. Work hard. They bought their homes in good faith. They saved in their pensions in good faith. And they're having it stolen away from them, whether it's the women born in the 1950s, the WASPy women having their pensions stolen. Now they're saying they're going to take your assets as well in your home. It doesn't have to be like that. It's a disgrace. And it's the actual deprived areas, Charles, that are facing the most significant cuts through council cuts. In my constituency of Ashton-under-Lyne, Oldham and Tameside councillors, half of their budgets cut under the Conservatives, which has affected those very same people they're saying they're trying to help. It's vicious, it's nasty, and it's not the way to run our services.
Right, I think the point is here, though, we are protecting people's assets. It is right that people save. You know, we are a country that saves and has worked hard, and people do save and they accumulate their assets. But we are protecting people's assets up to £100,000.
You wait until they die and then you're going to snatch it from them.
So what's Labour's solution then? Because we are taking a long-term approach to social care provision. It is not sustainable, Angela. It's carry on in the way in which we are doing so right now.
You are cutting taxes to the rich. You have cut corporation tax to 17%. You've cut capital gains tax.
And grow jobs.
No, it doesn't.
I think you'll find it does.
It doesn't. Margaret Thatcher's level was at 33%. We're at 17%. We can pay for our elder relatives. We don't need to be this way.
Whilst you may say, oh, you're just going to take away everyone's savings, you instead would take it away in an inheritance tax. Surely this is complete hypocrisy, and you just want to soak the rich.
Well, no, it's not hypocrisy, it's about choices, and what we're saying is this government have made choices where they've slashed corporation tax, slashed the tax for those at the rich, and then they're making pensioners pay for it. Now, I went to a state school, and all my children go to a state school. I want the best for every single child, and that's why I don't believe that grammars are the right thing to do. I'm basing it on the evidence rather than hypocrisy.
Come to you, yes.
There's a fundamental point here, and this isn't just about education. This is actually about Labour and the fact that they literally think that they can spend their way when it comes to any big challenge or any big problem that society faces by taxing people. So, you know, if you own it, they'd tax it. You know, if you consume it, they'd tax it. If it walked, there's no doubt about it that they'd tax it. But at the same time, well, it is true.
Are you ruling out national insurance contribution rises for the British people? Are you going to rule that out in your manifesto? We did.
Has no credibility when it comes to the financial situation.
Well, you've read the manifesto.
And there's nothing in the manifesto that says you will not increase national insurance contribution.
You know, the choice
that's what you wanted to do in the last Parliament. Are you going to do that?
On June the 8th is about economic credibility and the leadership of our country. And 7 years ago, Conservatives in government had to pick up the pieces of the
There is a commitment not...
No, it was a global economic crisis and the deficit has increased. You promised that you'd get rid of the deficit, and now you've said it will be 2026.
Now listen, I'm sorry, there are five people on the panel. This is getting ridiculous. You cannot just shout at each other across me and leave out everybody else.
Can Labour please tell us how we reduce 1.7 trillion of debt?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, that's a really fair point, because under the Conservatives, debt has doubled. And they promised... and this is why I get really passionate about it, because they promised that they would make sure the deficit was already gone by. Now it's not true.
What's your answer to him?
My answer to you is that where we said we would borrow, it's about capital investment. It's about borrowing and investing in our young people and our British lives.
Okay.
So instead of getting people off the peg from abroad to do the skills in our country, it's about making sure that our young people have a national education service, so they're invested in without the debt.
Yes. All right.
I think Jeremy Corbyn has been really clear, and the Labour Party position is clear, is that we respect the votes of the referendum, but actually our first principle is to put British jobs and our economy first. Whereas Theresa May is dog whistling for UKIP votes and is saying that we'll put immigration first. Yet she's doubled, she's failed to meet her targets time and time again on immigration. Actually, we want a Brexit deal that will ensure that all parts of the UK can prosper and do well. And our manifesto sets out how we were going to grow Britain and ensure that our children have the skills for the future and not saddled with lots of debt, and that we build more social housing, and that we build an NHS and a social care system that will give people dignity and respect. The Conservatives are not offering that.
I read pages 28 and 9 of this under immigration for Labour. There's no mention of cutting immigration at all.
We say the freedom of movement would end, and actually what we believe in is by making sure that employers can't undercut the wages in the UK, which the Conservatives have allowed to happen for over 7 years in power. We believe that actually some of the practices that people are feared of around immigration will end, because of we will make sure that British skilled workers can get those jobs. We don't have those skills at the moment. They've cut bursaries for our NHS nurses.
Do you want as a policy to see fewer immigrants coming to the UK or not?
We want to see a UK economy that puts our jobs and our workers first. That's what we've said. Now, immigration, and we've made no bones about that, immigration has been positive for the UK, but in some areas, like in my constituency in Ashton-under-Lyne, they feel they've been disproportionately affected by immigration because they've seen the housing pressures, they've seen public services being cut, and they've seen the undercutting of wages. And the Conservatives have allowed that to happen. They've broken their promises on that. And they're going to wreck our economy by dog whistling UKIP on this particular issue.
Thank you, David. Well, the question was about leadership and whether or not Jeremy Corbyn is credible as a leader to go in and get the best deal for Britain when it comes to our Brexit discussions and negotiations. I think the obvious answer is no. I mean, can any of us seriously picture and see Jeremy Corbyn sitting down with presidents and prime ministers and chancellors?
You know, you've just had Frank Field on talking about how Jeremy in other circumstances is able to work with other people.
You've worked with him, haven't you?
Yeah, I worked with him on the Shaka Amir case, you know, on a Guantanamo Bay case, and he's very polite, very courteous, listens to arguments. So we want to be a bit careful.
Can any of us seriously picture and see Jeremy Corbyn sitting down with presidents and prime ministers and chancellors across Europe to get a deal? And the reason why the answer is no is because we are going to face a challenging time over the next 5 years, and there's only one leader, Theresa May, as Prime Minister, who's been able to recognise that and face up to the fact that...
Where's the 350 million you promised?
Hang on a second.
Will the NHS still get the 350 million a week that you stood in front of brandishing?
£8 billion
Yes,
on top
I
of
know
the
you have.
10 billion that's
where's the
already going
350
into
350
the
gone?
NHS, on top of the 11 billion that's gone into mental health as well. So in terms of funding for the NHS, we are absolutely committed to not just securing funding, but investing in the future.
So we have
as
to
well.
forget the 350 story. Angela Rayner.
Well, you're plugging the holes of the money that you've siphoned out of our public services at best. But to be fair, I will agree with Priti on the issue around the 0.7%. She's absolutely right, and she's changed her tune because she didn't want to get rid of her department, as David did say. But Gordon has a point. He has a point about where we spend that money. And what Priti was saying earlier, for example, we're spending money on giving aid to Yemen, yet we're selling arms to Saudi Arabia, who are causing the crisis in Yemen.